Welcome to another episode of Zero Ales and Hockey Tales with Wally. And today I am so excited to have on a 43-year-old from Cochrane, Alberta, Canada. His hockey journey has taken him to Canada and the USA, a staple and legend with the Olds Grizzlies. And I'm going to go ahead and assume they have retired his jersey because he played 4 seasons with those Grizzlies, leading the league in points and goals his last year with 64, folks. Fun fact, he led the league by 12. And the year before that, just to show everyone what's up, posted 224 penalty minutes. Oh, he was also assistant coach for 4 years, head coach for 2 years. So I'm assuming his jersey is in the rafters. He is also a legend with the Western Michigan Broncos and my captain, becoming a 3-year captain and dominating the NCAA circuit, really just bullying people. Dabbled for a year in pro hockey in the AHL and the coast. But folks, he's not just good at hockey. He is a photographer, videographer, podcaster, filmmaker, and a world-renowned fly fishing guide. Welcome to my shed, Dana Lattery.
What's happening, buddy? It is good to be in your shed.
I'm so happy you are.
I've been in your shed before, just not your virtual shed.
Right. And I get into how we know each other. We haven't seen each other since 2004.
Probably, truthfully, yes.
Yeah, like you see each other every day in college, and then you turned pro, and it's just like poof, never see each other again.
The magic dragon. You see each other every day in the shower.
Yeah.
So that's intimate.
It is.
And it's over.
It's over. And it's like, yeah, you didn't even want to see it again.
18 years. That's 18 years.
Yeah, you're right. That's a long
time.
It is. And you have a way longer beard.
It's growing.
It's long, eh? How long have you been doing that for?
Now that Colhane isn't all over me for shaving every 3 minutes of the day, I can kind of do what I want to do.
Right. It is fun to do what you want to do.
Yeah.
I see you're doing that in life, and I like that. It seems like you're doing what you want to do in life. I respect that.
Well, I think there's very few people in life that are doing what they want to do.
Mm-hmm. And I'm doing it right now, though, by the way.
Yeah, there you go. There's 2 of us. But fortunately, yeah, maybe because some things didn't work out, I had to take another path in life. And but here I am 18 years later.
Yeah, you are. So I get into how we know each other. We would have met on my Western Michigan recruiting trip. I remember it because you would have been a freshman. Your whole freshman class was a bunch of studs, and you guys were ranked like top 10 in the country. And I roll into town. I have a broken thumb, so I couldn't play. So I get to go on a recruiting trip, and you guys are playing Michigan at home, and seeing the Lawson Lunatics, seeing that arena, and seeing you guys play the University of Michigan and all those punks. And yeah, I was sold.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool recruiting trip. Mine was Western played Fair State, so I didn't quite get the same experience that you did. But I could only imagine coming into that environment and seeing the whole side of the arena, the Lawson Lunatics completely wearing black. Did they have the Thunder Sticks at that time?
Oh yeah, it was mayhem. And then you get the band playing, right? And like a kid from Elmira, I've never really seen a band in the crowd before.
Yeah. I mean, you've been to band camp, but you haven't really seen a band in the crowd.
Right. But yeah, I was totally hooked. And then you guys were up that game, but ended up losing. And so after the game, we went back to the Burnhams. You know?
Oh yeah, the Ernest Burnhams.
Yeah. What a spot, eh?
What a classic. Ernest and Smith Burnham were that's where legends go to die.
Yeah, it was quite the spot. That's all saying. Quite the cafeteria. The freshman 15's a real thing, folks.
Yeah, freshman 30 probably. Especially when it's chicken finger night. Do you remember chicken finger night?
I remember Yancey had a real soft spot for the cheese maker, the hot cheese.
He did have a soft spot. That's a fact.
Yeah, few of them, actually. You know what? He's skinny now. Did you know that?
I know. I saw that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Good for him.
Good for him.
But also when I went for that recruiting trip was you had the nation's leading scorer. Mike Bishai was running amok, wasn't he?
Him and Gove rest in peace, Dave Gove,
Yes.
and Rimshaw. They were quite the line. Probably more so what was dynamic about that setup was the power play. And Soupy was the freshman
Soupy.
on that power play. And that power play was something to behold. You can't,
Well, when you look at college stats, I've never seen stats like that. Your Bishai had 68 points, Gove had 59, and Soupy had 54. That's wild.
yeah, I bet you 85% of their points came on that power play.
That's wild.
That's what got our team ranked way up top there. But yeah, just like a lot of things in life, we could not hold on to that kind of momentum.
Mhm.
And
It
we
was
were
actually kind of right after I committed that I guess the momentum
fell
stopped.
apart.
Yeah,
Well, I guess you
momentum
can't
stopped.
work out 6 days a week for 2 hours running into February.
Yeah, January, February could really catch up with us. The toll our bodies would take.
Yes, that's a fact. And maybe we should have taken the workouts down to a light aerobic exercise, but we didn't. We kept
No.
full gas
Yeah.
on those workouts and got to playoffs and got destroyed.
Yes. That all happened. The workouts, when I went to college. So I'll get into this is still how we know each other. So there's the recruiting trip. I'm sold. I've never seen an arena like it. The Lawson Lunatics are still running amok, and I see videos and what's going on there now. Western Michigan is finally the school we both know it always should have been, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It has everything you need to be awesome, right?
Everything. And they've got some strong culture, they got some great coaching. Their reputation is starting to speak for itself.
Yeah, it's great to
They,
see.
they got all the renos that we were promised and never
Yeah.
saw.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. Yeah, they
Which is-
did. They
which
were
is
going to
big.
fix up the rink, right? It's right
Which
with
is
the day
big.
we were going to get there. They were going to fix her up. But
Oh yeah. It's
yeah,
happening. It happened. It
it
just
did
didn't happen
happen.
when we were
Yeah.
there.
But those workouts when I first got to school, so I like working out, it wasn't like it is now. People didn't know what they know now. But when I played junior, like our team workout would be like go run around the track 4 times and come back to the locker room. I got to Western Michigan. The workouts were not just that.
Well, you could almost say that what I feel is I see this like trend with CrossFit and everybody's like, man, you got to get in on the CrossFit. And I was like, we were the pioneers of CrossFit. It was just our workout. And I think that was kind of like when things really started to change in the hockey world was we got treated more like athletes and endurance athletes and we trained like that. And you can keep talking about it because it was intense.
Oh man, like I remember doing squats and like we were doing like max and I felt like my asshole was gonna fall out,
Yeah, it probably did.
It could have. It was touch and go there. But then like for me from Elmira, Ontario, when I got there, we were sharing the weight room with the football team. And yourself on our team, they had leaderboards of all the weights we were throwing around, and you had quite a few of the records. And then they had the football guys' records, and seeing the numbers and seeing the guys actually lift those weights was mind blowing.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of cool to be. I mean, I think the problem was we trained a little too much like football players. Like I should have never had numbers like that as a hockey player.
No,
I don't really think that. Well, I mean, that was probably the demise of my knee problems, but I mean, sure looked good on the strength coach's website when he's got a guy squatting 800 pounds on a hockey team.
The hockey players are a little leaner than the way we were getting built.
It should be.
Yeah. But you were a huge college player. You bullied people. You could just skate. That one picture you sent for your poster where you're kind of cross-checking a guy going through him. And I was like, I watched that in college. Well, you guys had full face masks on, right? So you just kind of ran through them.
You just went.
We did just go in college, didn't we?
Yeah, I just loved. I remember the one time we were playing Michigan, a series. I was home and home. I think they all were with Michigan. And the one reporter at school, which I can't remember his name, and I just despised him because he took everything you said and just absolutely twisted it to get a story.
Right.
And we were talking about the upcoming remember that shirt I made where it was like the poster of the train and it had all the the teams kind of like getting blown
Yeah.
off the track, and we were coming for him, and I alluded to that. I was like, get out of the track, we're coming. And so he made this whole story like
About it, how it's about you.
yeah, get out of the tracks. His Lattery's coming for you, and he's gonna take you out of the tracks. And I don't think I've ever been hit so many times in that game at Yost Arena. And it might have been like 50 sometimes, like every single time I touched the puck, somebody was headhunting me. And but it was fun. I think that's the stuff I live for.
Man, those playing those big games against Michigan, Michigan State, like, man, those could really get the juices flowing, couldn't they?
Yeah, almost too much. Like, to be
Mhm.
honest, when Michigan came to town and the game that you saw on your recruiting trip,
We'd make a big deal of it, wouldn't we?
yeah, it was hard to play though, because it just got so a hold of you, and especially as a freshman, or newer to the league in your first couple of years down there, it's like you were too ramped up to the game, and
So ramped up.
sort of became hard to play.
Yeah, and then you'd go out there and just be ripping around, right?
Oh yeah, just forget the puck. It's
Yeah,
just
just
like
give her.
run, because the crowd, like, they didn't really know what quote unquote fighting was, but if you would like hit somebody and then start pushing,
Yeah, or like you hit a guy and your stick hits the glass, and they're like,
oh,
"Wah!"
that's nuts. Like, that fight was epic. And it's like, it's not a fight. Like,
No.
my freshman year, we had our first, it was exhibition game against Alabama Huntsville, and there was actually a line brawl after, and me and a couple other guys, we got kicked out. And that was like, that sold, like, Lawson was not packed. My recruiting trip, it was dead. The next year was like, people started coming, and then that exhibition game, it was like the talk of the campus was, you got to go to a hockey game.
Changes everything, right?
Well, it did, and then we were winning that year, so that was really helping kind of change, because like for years that was a ghost town in there.
And
And
it
so
wasn't really a renowned school from what I remember. Like, I didn't even know what it was until they started recruiting me.
yeah, I had no idea. I was talking with Princeton and Cornell and schools like I couldn't financially afford to get into.
Yeah.
And then Western pops out of nowhere, and it's like, where is this?
Mhm.
Western Michigan.
Yeah,
So
I
pretty
didn't
cool
know
to
anything
see
about it.
where the program has come in the last like 15, 20 years.
It really is. And like the coaches they're bringing in, like it's wild to see. NHL, caliber coaches. It's wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anywho, the other day I remember, for how we get to know each other, is you're the captain of the team. And I still think this was one of my favorite days of college. The first year we do our 6 days of working out like crazy. And then they make us work out the Saturday morning, and it's before we're playing games. And there is a home football game. Those days were my favorite days of college. They were incredible. I remember Coos got us all old Bronco jerseys, and we had our own
holes in them. Yeah.
and we had our hockey number on those jerseys. And then you could find everybody on the team. And like, I was new. I had only been there a couple of weeks, and man, that was so much fun. Just the whole town's a tailgate.
Isn't it funny? Like, a lot of the things that you miss aren't really hockey related. Like, yeah, there's a whole subsection of that stuff, but like, those, I talk about those all the time. It's like, like, those Saturday morning runs were hell. Like, if you
Hell.
remember, like, it was the
Hell.
worst workout, and I
Ever.
can't run. And so
Mhm.
we got put through the ringer, but then the exciting part was that about 8, 9, you were done, because we'd go at like 6, and then we'd go get kegs, pony kegs.
Yeah.
We'd go tailgate somewhere, and I
And
don't know if
we'd
we
get to
made the
work.
football game, but yeah, we would.
There were definitely multiple days where, like, and they weren't that good at football back then either, which I think they're better now. I remember we'd be going there for around halftime, and people would already be walking out because they'd be losing so bad.
Yeah, right. I don't even know if I made a lot of football games. A lot of time in the tailgate.
Tailgating was way more fun than watching the games.
Yeah.
I went to a couple of them. As soon as you walk in, you're like, what am I doing here?
Yeah, well, you couldn't drink there, so it was like
Yeah.
a quick exit to, well, everyone's sobering up here. This is weird. We gotta get back to the concrete in the parking lot over there.
It is a lot of fun around that town those days. And that was way to go, Coos. Good party planning that day, right?
He definitely, he was the the mayor of Party Town.
Then that's the other part of that first month of school that I'm so fond of, and I would have done anything for the Western Michigan Broncos. I loved that place, and that first month was a big part of it. We had our seniors take the team for our camping trip, right, with the freshmen to get to know each other, and we did the tubing down the river with
Oh
kegs.
yeah, Aki set that up.
That was awesome.
Yeah, and the snapping turtles, and Jarmuth would put them on his nipples.
It's a Jarby. He has to be one of the biggest beauties I've ever played with.
Oh yeah, beautiful mess.
Okay. Another way we know each other, I'll just bring up all these random memories
sure.
I had. Okay. Is I was at your house, your college house, for the party after Mantua scored against Ferris. Our goalie scored against Ferris. They were ranked like one of the top teams in the country with Kunitz and all those punks.
On it, yeah.
And he scores a goal, and we go back to your house for a fantastic college party, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was that the night that it was pouring rain, because I have one fond memory of you at our college house when we were out ripping around like unclothed.
I think I know what you're talking about.
And it was
that
like
wasn't that
mudslides like all over the front and back lawn between us and the gymnast house.
That was a kid. That was when I had to take a recruit out. That was in the off season when they brought in a kid for recruiting.
Oh yeah,
I did the sliding through the mud naked.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I do remember that.
Right. Yeah, the kid never came to that school. Maybe the parents looked at the photos.
Fill me in on this party a bit more so I can jar my memory.
All I remember was that it was like your house was completely packed and everybody was having a time, and it was after we just beat one of the top teams of the country. And that was when we were running amok that first few months there, freshman year.
Yeah, and then the old workouts got to us in the February,
and then you can run out of gas.
Yeah.
Anywho, where and what are you doing now?
Well, I'm back in the Calgary area, just living I'm living in Olds where I played junior. What brought me here?
Where's Olds? How far away is that from Calgary?
It's about 45 minutes north.
Okay.
So just a small town, like 8,000 people. I moved back to Calgary after I got hurt playing my year of pro, and then I think it was like 2010, like a couple years after that, I got asked to come coach here. So I was traveling back and forth, and then I just decided I guess I'm back in hockey, and so I moved up here, and that's kind of where I still am.
And now it's home.
Yeah, it's home. I don't feel like if I could move, I would. Most of the stuff, like what do I do now, is I have an outfitting business for fly fishing, do a lot of digital media, like photos, video. I mean, that stuff can be anywhere, but most of my guiding is done right out of Calgary. So I'm always driving. So if, Olds is a place I reside for now.
So, okay. So Olds was where you were coaching for like 7 years, but you're no longer doing that.
Yeah. So I think it was like 2010 to 2017. I was coaching, and then the team was always in financial peril, like every average junior hockey team. And eventually it got so bad that the league wasn't going to let us back in the next year. So they had to make a decision. It was a community owned kind of operated team. And the team decided, or as a collective group, we should try to sell it or find some financial backing or owners. So as we progressed through this, a bunch of rich people came together and they purchased the team. And so just kind of I had a year left on my contract, and we sat down in different meetings, and I found it really hard to want to stay with this new group. They just were
different than how it was. It wasn't the community feel.
No, I mean, they didn't know what they were doing. Just be straight up. And
maybe not hockey people.
Well, a lot of them were like alumni of the team way back. A lot of them were well, what they weren't was culture people. And when I coached, I believed in the culture.
Mm-hmm.
I believed in The winning is secondary to creating, great
culture.
young men and just like developing these kids. And all they want to do is win. We're going to win. We're going to go national championship in a year. All this team needs is some money.
So
And
it's going to be throw money at the team to be better, not
yeah, well, this just had no clue, literally have no clue. And case in point, that team hasn't made the playoffs since I left. And it's been an absolute dumpster fire there, which is sad to see as an alumni.
and especially like because so I've gotten into coaching kids the last couple of years. I'm coaching my daughter's team this year, and last year I coached my son's team. And man, you can get really passionate about that shit and when you get to know all the kids, and I'm sure
yeah,
you would
you
have had a
care.
bunch of kids you care about and you want to see them improve and you want to see them become good young men. And
Yeah.
then you have to, that would suck to take a step back.
Yeah, it was really hard because, like after I got hurt my last year pro and kind of ended things there was very a lot of guys, the hockey guys relating to this. When your career's over, it sucks. And it's,
Oh yeah.
like we don't realize how lucky we have it when we're playing at whatever level you're catered to. Everybody knows you, depending what level or what, area or town or small city that you play in. And when you come back, you're nobody. And that's really hard to take. And then, there's a lot of depression that follows that. It's like, wow, what am I going to do now? Like, like we're talking about all these fun stories about playing at college. Those don't exist anymore, or you were trying to search them out because it's like, well, I don't have a team. I don't have a group of 20 dudes that I go hang out with every day at the rink. And so it's just a lost feeling. And then when I got back into coaching, I was like, oh yeah, here it is again. I found my purpose and my ability to give back to these kids and these players. And you get so hooked into it because you care, right?
You're really hitting home, dude. You're gonna get
I know.
crying
It's,
here.
no, but it's true, man. And I get to take a lot of NHL players or semi-pro players fishing. And I deal with them a lot in the fact that they're ending hockey, and it's like, and I'm like, dude, I know what you're gonna go through, and it's gonna suck. Like,
And the weird part is even if they're in their last season, even if they know that it's coming to an end, they still don't get it until they get it.
they won't, yeah, they get it. So what does that even mean? It's like they don't get it until it hurts.
Until it's happening, until you
Yeah.
feel it. And it's September and all the seasons are starting and all the teams are happening and you're sitting at home and your crew isn't around you. You don't have the guys to go for lunch with. You don't have the guys to do everything with. And all of a sudden you're just there. Yeah.
Well, you're just nobody. Like
Yeah.
I know you're not nobody, but that's the feeling is like, wow, who's going to come to Qdoba with me and crush 4 burritos and,
Right. Have an eating competition.
yeah, at any single moment in playing hockey, you had somebody to do something with.
Yeah.
And now you're
yeah.
just like, whew.
Well, and it's like, who are you? That was my thing. Was I was always Wally. I was always, you, not to toot my own horn, but I was usually one of the top scorers on the team. I was one of the power play guys. I was Wally. I'd be if we won games, I'd dance naked for the boys. I'd keep things light
Yeah.
and fun. And then hockey, Wally's done and it's over. And you're like, well, who am I now? Like, I'm not that guy anymore. And then it took me a very long time to realize that I can be that guy. Just can't get naked and dance for people anymore, folks.
Especially when you're coaching your daughter's team. And so that's how that job came to an end.
But the coach and the kids, man, and how you talk about caring is like the kids I've coached the last 2 years, like I truly care about them and watching them improve and get better. And then there is the culture part, but like when they learn how to win and they learn what it takes, but they do it for each other. And you see them celebrate each other's goals as hard as they celebrate their own. And then you realize like you help build that culture and you're like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah. Well, it fills you like it literally, cause you're nothing in life without hope or purpose. And when the game is done, like I see so many people just like hanging on to who they were when they played. And I smell the ammonia of an arena when I drive by, and it floods me with memories, like memories and memories and memories. And it's like, and it sucks. And I don't want to go by the rink anymore because it really triggers stuff.
Yeah.
But I think, if I could give any advice to people kind of walking through this, it's like you've got to refine your team. And for me, it was in fly fishing, and there's 8 guys that guide with me, and it's a really close group of dudes that it
That's your
feels like
team.
hockey players to me. And we spend a lot of time together, we grow together, we've got culture. You can't really win in the game, but we learn to win, and we learn to treat our people well. And
You
it's
have a
become
good
fun
culture.
again. 100%. It's the culture, and that, like, you can't stress that enough. It's like you got to refine your team, and it's not going to be on the ice.
So afterwards, I got into a new industry, and it was very hard for me. Sitting at a desk for 40 hours a week or more, working later at nights and not seeing the kids, and getting up early and do different things, or traveling for a few months. And it's like, it was very hard. And then I was lucky enough, or fortunate enough, that they gave me a supervisor position for a department and said, we want you to change the culture of this department. And I have a team and I have a culture now, and
Yeah.
now it's way better.
And I mean, and I hear the emotion in your voice, because it's hard. Like, it's so hard to lose. Like, I mean, you were such a charismatic player on the team. You were such a valuable asset to every team you went to. You were Wally. You brought the fun. You were a phenomenal hockey player. And then it's like, hey, go sit in an office. And it's like, no, I'm not living out my purpose. And it's
The passion and the purpose, right?
passion. And
Yeah.
it's just, I see so many, ex-hockey players, and they're just going through the ringer in their mind, and they're lost. And
Yeah.
it's awesome that you get now a position where you can say, hey, I have the opportunity. It's not hockey, but culture still exists, winning still exists, working for the team still exists, getting the teammates to love each other still exists,
And
to
do anything for each other, right? It's like,
Yeah.
we're 24/7, my team. And my job is, and that's why I feel like I can log off for a lunch hour and talk in my shed for my passion. And
Yep.
but I also have a team that it's like, these individuals will do anything for each other. We have a good culture. If somebody has family stuff going on, they're all willing to step up for each other. And
Yeah.
that,
And that's winning, man. Like, that's so awesome to hear, because that's what you can hope that people take out of playing the game of hockey is, no matter how far you went, no matter how many trophies or wins or accolades or whatever, it's like you've learned to love your brothers, the guys on your team, and to know that there at any given time you have to step up and step into a position. And I see it over the years as I've had guys in and out of the team, and you just know right away, it's like, you're selfish, you're not welcome here.
Yeah. And there's that you have to sometimes make roster changes to get the
Yeah.
culture you want.
I always wanted them to have trades back in our business.
Yeah.
Trade a guy to another
Ah.
outfitter.
I actually, though, when we talk about the coaching and the passion and trying to build a culture, is, yeah, I put my name in to coach the AAA under 12 team next year, and I'm just waiting to hear if I got the gig or not. But I sure do hope to be involved and help these kids. I think I could add some value when it comes to teaching the best kids around here how to be a team, and that it's not just about them,
That's perfect, man. I hope that does happen, because there's a lot of people that jump into coaching for their own ego to
Yeah.
feel.
And to be that guy that they always were.
Yeah.
Right. And it's
Yeah.
like, I went through the hard times and I was out of the game totally. And then coaching the kids brought me back into the game. And then I realized how much I love it, and watching them get better, and just seeing the kids around town, and seeing like
Yeah.
my new buddies around town, and they come up and give me hugs. It's like, oh God.
Yeah, it's what it's all about. And
Right.
it's awesome that you've figured that out.
Well, and they say that all the different people you pass through your journey kind of make you who you are. And that's why I couldn't wait to have you in my shed, because you did have a big impact on me. I thought you were one of the best captains you could play for,
I appreciate that, buddy.
You did everything the coaches asked for. You never complained about anything. It was, you worked as hard as you possibly could every single day with a smile on your face, and you held everybody accountable. think what else are you supposed to do, right?
Sometimes that's the hardest part is the accountability because you're in an interesting role as a captain. I remember we had that one situation where a guy got, we knew he went out past curfew. We weren't sure how to handle it. And so I thought, well, if I fight him in practice, the coach is going to ask questions and then I'll let him answer that. But it's tough because it's your buddies first. But at the same time, it's like, hey, we're thinking of the greater good of the team. And I have a bit of a role here, somewhere mixed between a coach and a player that I got to hold people accountable. And that I found was the hardest part of the job.
Well, especially when people aren't bought in, right? So yeah, I was when your class left and my leadership core left, I had a hard time when that role kind of became mine, right? Like my senior year, I still think I was not a good leader for that team. It was almost like it became okay to lose. And then like I was putting up numbers and everything, and like I have NHL teams talking to me, and like our team's losing, and like it was just so depressing for me that last year.
It's
Yeah.
tough. It is. It's tough when, and I went through a bit of that too, where it's like you're getting NHL teams are talking to you after the game. They're sending you stuff, within the limits of NCAA rules.
Yeah.
But you just didn't want to share about it with anybody, and you felt kind of like we're not winning and we're not having team success. And then I feel shameful as a captain having individual success, and it's like
right. And
it's
you
a hard thing
you
to
almost
walk
feel
through.
bad, right? Like
You do. Well, you do feel bad. You feel like,
and like for me, I was living with Stretch, who they never put in the lineup a lot of our senior year.
yeah,
Daryl always had a tough go with the coaches and their relationship, I think. And then there was Yancey as well. And like what was going on in my personal hockey life, and then their personal hockey life, and then the team not doing well. Like I'm getting ready to go to a game, and like they're
yeah,
maybe banging back a couple beers, right?
yeah. As they're not
Because they're
playing,
not
and then
playing
yeah,
and they're pissed off. And it's just a weird vibe when I would have much rather been good with everybody and everybody be having fun, you know?
yeah. Well, and that's truthful. Like you do speak from the heart because that was your personality. Is that you definitely were a team player, and that's rare to find a kid with a talent like that, but yet cares about his team. And I noticed that a lot when I was coaching was you almost couldn't get both. It was, I mean, if you did, we couldn't recruit them because we
Yeah.
were olds and it was hard to get them there. But so to err on the side of caution, I always chose the kid with the character
And the
over the
character,
talent
yeah.
because I could work on the talent. I can't work on the character.
You're right. Like a lot, it's weird, right? You see people 20 years later, everybody's still who they were, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, we better keep going. We got right down a hole here. So I've seen you like made a movie in Oman. Is that right?
Yeah, we did. We did. Yeah. You want me
Fly
to
fishing
elaborate?
movie.
Yeah. So we went over there.
I do want you to elaborate because I did my MBA in Cardiff and I had some classmates from Oman. That's all.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Oman's it's in the Middle East. It's on the southern of just below Saudi Arabia. A lot of people they hear Oman and they don't even know it exists. Which was my story when I went there.
How
And
did it happen? How do you end up going to Oman?
yeah, so when I finished playing hockey, I always grew up hunting and fishing and stuff, and I was really excited to kind of for not having hockey in the winter. I was like, wow, I can go hunting now because I have this time. So I got pretty heavy into hunting, and then I started guiding hunting. Probably 2009-ish. These two guys from Kuwait came over and they were working oil and gas up here, and they wanted to go on a bird hunt. So we took them, and it turned into one thing and another, and they became such awesome buddies and kept in touch with the one guy. He came back the next year, and then I think that was the last I saw of him, but he always stayed in touch with me, and he's like, I have a fishing lodge in Oman. You should come. And I've dodged it for probably like 8 years because well, that's the Middle East, and this is where we all go to die, right? And
Yeah.
so the thing that really pushed me to go, as you know, I'm probably 5 years into kind of making films, probably 3 years, like, really into doing it, um, was I love to tell stories. And I thought this is an opportunity to go there and tell a story about a place that I think people have reserve about, and I can do it through fly fishing. And so, as fly fishing has kind of been such a huge part of my life over the past 10 years, the ability to go there and try to debunk some um, Western
Yeah. I
prejudices with
yeah.
like Muslims. And I mean, 9/11 happened when we were in school. I believe you were there. Were
It
you not
was the
there?
year before I came. Yeah.
Okay, so my sophomore year, and that changed things because every time you got on a plane, you would see um, a dark skinned person, a Muslim, and you'd be like, "Oh my goodness, is this it again? We're gonna go down." And I speak freely about that, not in a prejudiced, racist way, but in a way that I know a lot of people thought.
And I
And
I do recall that. I remember it. Yes,
yeah, and it was
absolutely.
scary. And we were taught through this Western prejudice that Muslims equal uh, terrorists, and that was just what we thought. And so all Muslims come from the Middle East, and that's all bad. And so I thought I could have, well, I'd go there and find out, and took a couple buddies who fish with me, and we called the film 9 Foot Rod. That's the length of a fishing rod. And so we just thought that that was kind of like our parallel transport to going to a different country like this and allowing us to meet the people. And upon return, it's probably one of the coolest places I've ever been, where the people were nothing short of outstanding. Everybody just loved on you. There was no hate, there was no Muslim terrorism fear. Do terrorists exist? Do Muslims that are terrorists exist? Yes, but they don't equal each other. And so that was just kind of our cool epiphany over there, was to come back and get to tell this
How
story.
long did you go over there for?
So we're there for 3 weeks.
And it's like a documentary style then?
Yeah, it's like a 12-13 minute video. And so that film won its way into a fly fishing film festival. So that was kind of cool. Cool and crappy was that it got in 2020. So it played for 2 months because this film festival travels the world, and then COVID hit. So it kind of
It didn't.
kiboshed that. But
Wow.
yeah, it was pretty awesome.
That is awesome and way to go. Like as I get older and there's, I guess, people that watch other people do shit and there's people that do shit. You do shit.
Yeah, well, yeah, we have choice. We can sit on our couch and watch people, like, and but honestly, that is something that I am working through, is like every year I come up with a word for the year, and I challenge myself through that. And I think it was like 4 years ago, like my word was just do. And
Yeah.
because you get stuck in this, like, oh man, I want to do that, or I want to do that, and eventually life's over. And
Right.
like, what do we figure, it was 2018, 18 years since we've seen each other,
Exactly.
like 18 years, and it feels like just yesterday, to be honest. So time is just so fast, and it's
It
like,
is so fast. And like the more you realize it and how faster it goes, the older you get, you're just like, this is nuts. And it's that I haven't seen you for 18 years after seeing you like every day. And it seems like yesterday I'd be over at that old house.
yeah,
Jeremy would be listening to Journey on repeat playing online poker, right?
yeah, that's a good point. Davies is in his room studying.
Studying. Yeah.
Yeah,
And so back then, we're jumping around, but you were at Western Michigan. Were you not doing like pre-med?
I did take pre-med. Yeah.
You've had an interesting journey how you get to, being a fly fishing guide and how'd you get into making movies then?
uh it's a good question. One, I don't know if I have a full answer for that would appease the appetite of the question, but I think oftentimes I had one.
Appease the appetite of the question. My word, you're good. You're good with words, eh?
Well, it's I mean,
Appease the appetite of the question. Okay. Sorry. You're making
truthfully,
me
right?
sound bad.
No, but the idea is like, I remember one client said to me, he talked about what did you take in school, and we're on the river, and he was an asshole, like straight up. He worked. The funny part was is he talked about how much he cheated on his wife, and all he had to do was give her his credit card, and she would be happy, and he could do whatever he wanted. And
Jeepers.
then I found out that he was like the CEO of a plastic company, and they made dildos. And I was like, the irony here is that you probably can't please your wife, but you own a company. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but
Uh,
he says to me, he's like, oh yeah, like he goes, what do you gotta fail at in life to become a fly fishing guide? Meaning like, everything else didn't work out, and now you're a fly
is
fishing
that
guide.
what he is saying? Because I think it's awesome. You're doing that and you're doing your passion and you're doing what you love. That
Yeah.
what a dick.
So he says this, and I say, what do you mean by that? He's like, well, like, I mean, you can't really go to school for this. So like, what did you have to, what didn't work out? And I said, well, ask a better question. And he goes, well, did you go to school? And I got into it, and I told him what I took. And he goes, you took pre-med, and here you are, a fly fishing guide. He's like, has your dad not kicked your ass yet and told you to get a real job? I'm like,
Serious?
yeah, and it was like a moment for me. I pulled over and said, this is where the ride ends. you can walk home, call and figure that out on your own. So anyways, I thought about that. I was like, why'd that bug me? It bugged me because it's like, oh man, you took pre-med, you should be a doctor, and you should be a lawyer, you should carry on with this stuff. And I just wanted anybody who's listening, the idea of it is like, no, there's this like this cultural norm that is to me flawed, where it's like 9 to 5 job, you should go to college, especially going to school in the States, everybody goes to college. And how many kids did you go to school with that were like, I don't know what I want to do, I
Yeah.
don't know why I'm here, but mom and dad are paying for this, and I guess I just have to be here, right?
Not many of them knew what they wanted to do.
No, and they still didn't, and they left school, and they're like, I got a bachelor and
Yeah.
whatever, and I don't know what I want to do. And so what I came out with that was understanding, like a lot of like I took a minor in philosophy and psychology, and it's like those are the two cool things that I take out of it, because it gave you a lot of perspective on life, on reasoning. It made you an intelligent person where you challenged yourself every day at school to keep good grades at a hard education, so that you could play hockey and to try to strive to do both things well. So there's a lot of stuff that I use every day that I credit to what I took in school. I wanted to go to med school. I kind of got out and I met with a few doctors, and they really discouraged me. If you weren't going to stay in the US, they were like, don't, it's not a good thing to do in Canada, like with the healthcare system and whatever. So I just kind of farted around a bit trying to find myself. And then that's when I started, guiding, hunting, and fishing. And then what I realized is that so many people are like coming fishing, and they hate their job, and they're like, they're 9 to 5, they're sort of well off, they're making good money, but they never have time to do anything they love.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, how is time not a valuable currency parallel with money, right? Because it's like,
Absolutely.
I make 180 grand a year. It's like, cool. What's your free time? Well, I don't have any. I work. It's like, okay, well, what if you made 100 grand a year and you had 80 grand in free time? Is
Yeah.
that, does that not have substance? And so I ask the question all the time, and it's like, you know, I
Eh,
think I just decided I didn't really want to quote unquote work.
Right. And I think everybody should do what they're passionate about. Whether you start going to school for one thing, I think people somewhat evolve and figure out what they really want to do in life, right? And
You should evolve. If you're not evolving, you're dying.
mhm. um, jeepers, we're getting deep today, eh? I haven't even looked at the notes yet.
That's all right. There's no
um,
structure.
the only part, like what I was thinking about though, when that guy was talking to you like that was, I find it interesting, right? When people say they start a sentence with, you should, or why don't you? And it's like,
Yeah.
well, you know what? How about you focus on yourself?
Yeah. How about today you worry about you?
Yeah. How about you wake up and worry about yourself and I'll get my shit done and you worry about yourself.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true. But probably he was just jealous, to be honest, that he's
Because he saw, well, you can see for me in pictures, in poster pictures, you can see who's happy in life. I can
yeah,
see who's happy, and you can see in their life, they send you photos that mean stuff to them.
yeah,
Your photos, you are living a very rich life and you are living life the way you want to do it. And I think it's awesome.
yeah. Well, it's cool. You can see that in the photos because I feel, I would replace the word rich with intentional because I think there's a lot of thought of to like, hey, what's next week going to be or what's, and that's not to say that this comes free and easy because there's a cost of uh I guess entrepreneurship and not knowing when your paycheck and you're always you're having to stay on top of things or money stops. And eventually if money stops, there's I mean, you got a family to take care of. Like there's a lot of consequences. And so you got to find the harmony in living like that, but yet taking care of the
Of
essentials.
everyone. Yeah. Mhm. So you do have a family,
I do. Yep.
and the picture I posted there with the young gal. So
Matea.
what are their names?
Matea, the one you posted, and Hayden is the boy.
Okay, and how old are they?
So Hayden's just turned 16 and Matea turned 14.
And did you said you were coaching volleyball? Who's doing that?
Well, I'm not coaching volleyball, but I would challenge myself to try because they're both doing volleyball. They both love it.
Okay.
Matea and Hayden, yeah, they've really like Hayden played hockey for a bit. So they're both step kids. Janine and I got together when the kids were like 1 and 3. So they've been here since the beginning.
Yeah.
And so Hayden played hockey, and I never wanted to force on him hockey
Yes.
because it was something I was passionate about. And I probably should have pushed him a little harder, but COVID happened and it was weird, and he just was
Got out
like,
of it.
I don't really want to do this. And
And it's not for everybody.
no, and yeah, like, probably something to look back in a few years. He wants to play again, but it's like, dude, you've taken 2 or 3 years off. Like, it's
Going to be hard
not,
to fit now.
yeah, like, and it's, he's passionate about volleyball, so that's awesome. And it's fun to see them in a sport. I don't care what sport it is, but sport teaches them so much, and we can teach them so much through their sports
Oh
where
yeah. Oh,
they
there's no
they
doubt.
can't get in the car and be like, my coach sucks. It's like, no, you suck. Like, and take accountability for your actions on the court or the field or the ice or whatever. So I love that part is getting
Yeah.
to teach them life through their sport.
No, I absolutely. I think the sports and being part of a team, right? Like, so I'm coaching my daughter's team in hockey this year, and like trying to teach them about being a team and like not saying anything negative about anybody else, and like worry about how you're playing. And if you're going to talk, it's positive. And yeah, being part of a team is very important.
Yeah, there needs to be more people like you at that age of kids' lives, because it's just the coaches get involved and they don't know anything about the sport, and they know nothing. Like, forget the sport. Like, I mean, it's kids at that age, and it's
But
like,
for
what?
me, the thing that really sticks out to me when I'm looking around at what everybody else posts, what all these hockey guys around the hockey world post about, it's all about making the NHL. It's all about the individual. It's all
Yeah,
about how to make you better. And it's like, that's not what hockey's about. It's about being a team. It's about
yeah.
being the best person you can be on the ice so you can help your team win. It's not about you making it to the next level, you making it to the NHL. It's about being the best player on the team you're on.
100%. And but the problem is the people that are coaching now have never played the game, or they haven't like, do you know what I mean? It's like the coaches who have played, who have had to, sit on the fourth line, or they've had to serve penalties, or they never got a penalty kill, or they didn't make the power play, or they just had to go out there and be a fourth line grinder. And it's like, it sucks. It sucks because it's an ego hit. But
Yeah.
what you learn is everything you just said. It's like, if I give to my team is better. And truly, if you're good enough and you do that, you will make it. Like,
Yeah, and that
nobody-
you'll get your more ice time, and you'll get that if you just
yeah,
buy in to the team.
yeah, exactly. But it's the wrong people coaching right now, and it's a problem.
Mhm. Anyways, one of the, just while we're on the topic, and I'll move on from poster pick soon, but there's a picture you sent of you hugging as a coach, the goalie, and you could see the passion in your face you had for coaching. That's all.
Yeah. Well, that was that was a cool pick because you know, where we are in Olds, we literally, like, I had no budget.
Yeah.
I got paid barely enough to get out of bed, and it
Yeah.
was a full-time gig. You're junior A coach. And so
Recruiting, everything, making
everything.
practice plans, everything.
And we know, because we played, what a good coach brings to the table and how much time and commitment they put in. So when it was like, well, we can offer you like this much for the year, and I was like, that, like, you literally could make more being a greeter at Walmart, and that's a fact. So I was like, well, what do we do about assistant coaches? And they're like, well, we don't have a budget for that. So I'm like, so at junior A, I have to convince people to come and help because I can't do this by myself. So I probably coached 80% of the games on the bench by myself in junior A.
80%.
In junior A.
Really?
And I probably ran that much practice by myself. Chasing pucks, picking up pucks, running practice.
And that town, like, and what's interesting, then they bring in the new owners and they'd have no idea what they had with you.
they know it. And yeah, it's like, but the point of telling that is because, I was out of my own pocket buying meals on road trips because we had none of our team credit cards worked. We were paying for the bus because he hadn't been paid in like 10 months, and we're like, dude, I'll pay up front if you drive us to the game. And it was like, this is a junior A program where, in my time there, we had kid drafted in the NHL. We had over a dozen kids gone on to NCAA Division I scholarships. We had multiple kids in NHL, like their, junior A, they have a game every year where they bring all these top recruits, and it's like we'd have 2 or 3 kids a year going to this, and we just weren't winning. And
Yeah.
it was really hard to win because I took the younger kids to develop them. And so that meant we wouldn't have instant success. And so back to that photo was like, we made playoffs that year. We were 40 something points behind the second place team. And so we had to play them in the first round. We were 7th place, so we had to play the second place team. And we swept them 3 games straight. And they were just like, and it was so exciting because I told the guys, I'm like, I know how to beat this team. We buy into this, we're gonna win. And that was in it was a best of 5 game 3 in Olds, and we scored in overtime to sweep them. And it was just like the roof came off the place.
And you don't forget that stuff. And that's
Never.
what's so fun about being part of the game again as a coach. Like last season with my son's team, we went through like round robin type deal, and it was the top 2 move on, and we were tied with the other team for second. And anyways, it comes down to a 1-game playoff, and this other team was better than us at hockey overall, and I knew it was going to take something to win that game, and they needed to realize how serious this was, because if we lost that game, we're playing the team in a series that we can't beat in a series, but we could beat the team if we win it. So I brought a mini Stanley Cup to the game, and I hid it in a bag, and then I get the boys fired up with that. I brought out the little Stanley Cup, and I said, like, we're playing for a championship tonight. Like, this is for the whatever division. And I'm like, we're going to go out there. We're going to beat them and whatever I said. And then I said, we're all going to come in here and sign this trophy, and we'll be brothers for life. And sure as shit, we went out and we beat the Ice Dogs, and then we came in and partied like we won the Stanley Cup.
And you were dancing naked for him.
No, I didn't do that.
No, that's awesome
It's a
because
different role on the team now, Dana.
yeah, things have settled down. But that's those intrinsic motivational things that you only get from having played.
Well, and you know that those things can matter when it comes to having that extra juice when you get out there.
They do,
you know?
they do matter. They 100% do.
Yeah.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, no, that was a day I'll never forget. And I have the picture up in my shed now, right beside me. So anywho, growing up in Cochrane, Alberta, how did you get into hockey and hunting and fishing?
I just think hockey was a natural progression of like my dad played hockey, and I just think, yeah, I just played. I don't remember starting hockey, or I don't
Because your
remember
parents would have just put you in too, right? Like
Yeah, they
everybody
just
does here.
throw you in, and you just
Some people take
play.
to it and some people don't, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But like, what about the fishing? Like, how did you get so passionate about fly fishing?
Well, so fly fishing is a later on in life. You know, we fished more so younger years were hunting, and my dad was a big hunter. We'd go for bighorn sheep. We'd go out west. We'd pack the horses. We'd do the whole thing.
Pack the horses, like you're going on horseback after the stuff.
Yeah. We grew up with horses, and we took the horses back in for like 10 days. So that was an interesting introduction to hunting because it was hard.
Yeah.
But looking back, I think it actually created the desire for the pureness of hunting versus just the killing. And so having that emotion towards hunting, and then when I started fly fishing more and becoming more passionate about it, it really is. I mean, there's something to be said for fly fishing. Hence, I have a podcast called Fly Fishing Saves Lives, where it's just so, yeah, the $1 million word that I can't come up with, but it has all the elements that heal people. And I think I needed to be healed. I was super jaded towards hockey. I was jaded to how my fate was decided through an injury.
Yeah.
And fly fishing just kind of was this place where I could go out there in this completely equal playing field. Doesn't matter if you got a $5 rod or a $5,000 rod. It's just the fish, the nature, there's no prejudice. You can't, like, well, I'm Connor McDavid's dad. Well, you can't catch a fish better than this nobody unless you're better, right? So it's like, it just became this real equalizer for me. And I got
It was a new challenge too, and there's a real skill to it then too, right?
Yeah, there's a learning curve, and it's a forever learning curve, which is cool because when I about 3 or 4 years after I got hurt and I started being able to sort of skate again, and I got back in and tried to play some men's league, I realized that if you tried too hard, everybody was ripping on you like, oh,
I know where you're going with this.
and if you didn't
and
try
if you
hard
didn't
enough,
try, the guys you're playing with are
oh,
like, what are you doing
yeah,
out here? You're not that good. Or
yeah.
it's boring as hell to not try and go out and play hockey and just be like, oh, bleh, and just pass it.
You can't, like, you it's
Well, it's
no
like guys would
disrespect.
get mad at me, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I can stick handle. I thought we came out here to play hockey. My bad.
Yeah, well, then I mean, I ended up fighting every men's league because these people were pissing me off. Like,
Right.
oh, just go like single-handedly one end to the other. And I was like, what am I like?
Nobody got in the way.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know what to do. And then you kick it back a notch, and I'm like, this isn't fun.
Right.
And so I was like, I need something where I can like strive to be the best, but I'll never be the best. And that's fly fishing, because it's just an always learning, evolving, growing, changing. There's so many elements, and and then once you've like get into it, you're just like, man, just to go out there is time in nature, time outside, standing in a river. And then I was like, I just want to take other people to do this because I wanted to share my passion, and that turned into guiding and a job.
That's awesome. I don't know anything about it. I've never done it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little more rare out your way just because you guys kind of
Well,
more
if I
like
head to
stuff.
Godrich, I go past the river. There's a bunch of fellas standing in the river, and
Are they fly fishing or center pin or gear fishing? So there's
mm,
different ways to do it, but once
right.
once you try it, once you come out and visit and try it, it you're screwed.
Really, eh? It's yeah, I being outdoors, being in nature, it's something I really enjoy. But anywho, where am I here? What are we talking about?
You're in the shed.
I am in the shed. This is great. Great to see you again.
You too, buddy.
Okay, so yeah, you do love fly fishing, and then you do have a podcast, Saves Life, Fly Fishing Saves Lives. So that's a pretty powerful name to a podcast. So how's that going? How many episodes do you do? You got issues like me? You're hitting the shed every chance you get, or what?
Yeah, so there's a couple things with that podcast is it's very intimate. And I feel that it's really hard to so a lot of people like commit to it and then they decommit right before it happens because like and this isn't just like two people, this is like very common is they get fired up to do it, but the podcast isn't like telling stories about flying around naked in mud and whatever. It's very intimate and people are very vulnerable during it. And so
And is it just you on it asking them questions?
yeah, so I'll just people who want to tell their story, right? And
Yeah.
so we just openly talk and what I
And it would be about how fly fishing maybe saved their lives.
yeah, so a couple, like Brian McGrattan, he's got an episode on there about all of his addiction stuff and drugs and alcohol and playing in the NHL and being an enforcer and just like his depression and all this stuff he was going through. And really the recovery that saved him was he got introduced to fly fishing. And now he can take his addictiveness out to the river. And, like it's like, I've realized with addicts, it's like you're always going to be an addict and you need to be somewhat addicted to something. And
It may
so,
as well be something good for you.
yeah, right. And so, his story is pretty powerful with that and relatable for us hockey people.
It's like I
Uh,
could be addicted to a lot worse shit than coming out to the shed and talking hockey with guys about their
right.
lives,
Yeah.
right?
And so this helps you heal from hockey being gone. And it's like letting other people share their stories, reminiscing, all things that trigger dopamine in the brain to help you remember the positives of it so that it's not so traumatizing when it's gone.
Well, because I hated hockey when I first got back, right? I had two little kids, a wife that couldn't work in Canada for at least a year. It took almost two. And it was all on me with no work experience except playing hockey. And I was like, this is where hockey's led me.
It's
You
like
you can get pretty resentful.
no, but it's true. It's not a joke. It's literally you're like, cool. So all of that I did, and here I am.
And
So
now here you are out like yeah.
it's like it's like, and I get people
And
that
we
say
work
that
so hard to get to that far and get that far into it, right? And it's like everybody else that works that hard at an occupation or a job, like it doesn't just come to a dead end.
No, it's a really good point. But what I want you to take out of that, and it's a cliche quote, but it's like what I learned was it's not about the destination, but when you're in it, it is about you're like, okay, so I'm gonna make this team, I'm gonna make that team, I'm gonna get a better contract, I'm gonna win this. So we chased the destination in hockey, and what we needed to realize it was the journey at which we were in was what we're talking about. And so
shout out to the shed guy 2 episodes ago that I didn't realize when he came to the shed. He's playing hockey and has his own clothing line, and it's called Zach Herman. It's called Enjoy the Ride.
Enjoy the ride.
And he's still playing, folks. And that's what he told me. He says, I'm just enjoying the ride. And I'm like, good for you, man. That's what it should be.
Because most people don't get it when they're playing. I didn't get it. I was just so focused on
the next year, the next contract, the next
where will I go? Yeah. And then it's just like, and you're like,
so what happened to your knee?
Yeah, so I blew up my knee not playing hockey.
Oh, really?
No, it was the summer of, yeah. So
and it's weird though, because if you get hurt playing hockey, there's a lot more doctors around to fix you. You can get in a lot quicker. You can see the right people quicker when you're on a team, right?
Yeah. So the interesting thing about that was, um, I never hurt myself. Why?
You
I
were
hurt myself playing
unbreakable in
hockey,
college, man. You were
but I didn't have any like injuries. Like I was, you'd get those like hip pointers and slash here and there that hurt, but like I didn't have any like
injuries.
injuries like that. And then that summer I came home and I went wakeboarding and just absolutely destroyed it. And so it's like, call my agent. I'm like, I'd signed with Calgary that summer and I was supposed to head down to Omaha. I was like, dude, I can't, like, my knee is like, he's like, well, just head down there and see what they say. I'm like, no, you got to do a physical before you get out. Like, this isn't going to happen. And so, kind of secretly not trying to like say too much, and maybe it's not a big deal. And so you get in to see a doctor and, you're getting things sped up a little bit, but it's like, a month later. And he calls me. He's like, "Are you gonna head down tomorrow?" And I'm like, "Dude, you gotta call. Like, you're my agent. You gotta call people and say I can't come, or like."
Yeah, like be
And I was
honest
just,
or tell them something. Like tell them what happened or something, right?
yeah, and it was so weird. It was like all of a sudden, what I realized was I'm a little damaged goods right now, and I'm not gonna make him his 3%, 4%, and maybe at like, and it was like all of a sudden, it's like, still there, like, I need help, and it was so it
Man,
was.
agents back in the day, and like, all of them were different. I'm not talking about a specific one, but um, they are in a business, right? And they're always
Yeah.
looking for the next player and the next big ticket and the next new guy. And sometimes you're like, hey, like you have me. Why don't you take care of me? Like, help me. I'm already here
Yeah,
on your team.
they're just trying to fill the next paycheck, and it's like, yeah, so that was a year of surgery rehab, and then I thought I was good to go. And
And
got
what
on
was
the ice.
wrong with the knee actually? Was it ACL, MCL?
No, so it literally was the simplest thing. It was just meniscus. Like I have zero meniscus in my knee right now
I
because
was just
they
talking about
kept,
this makes my knee hurt. Sorry.
yeah, they just kept going in and take it out. But when you damage your meniscus, you have soft tissue injury in the area, so there's a lot of recovery. You can have a simple meniscus tear, which is should be a very easy surgery to fix and get you back on the game. But it was like every time it wasn't right. I don't know what they were doing in the surgery, but like I would go back to train and then soft tissue damage again. And so like to this day, it's like my knee it's like it's horrible. And I go back to the doctors and it's like, what do you want us to do? I'm like, well, I
Help.
don't know. Put something. Can you not like, well, you're too young for
A
a
knee
knee
replacement.
replacement. It's like,
You're really
yeah,
hitting home here, big guy.
yeah, right. So it's like,
So I guess I haven't seen you in 18 years, but yeah, I had PCL reconstruction in Germany,
oh yeah,
missed a whole year, then played 6 more years of pro once I came back, and then she really went on me again. And yeah, I have chronic pain, and they say I can't get a knee replacement until I'm whatever age,
yeah.
and there's nothing I can do except liver up.
He's like, it's a long ways from your heart, kid. I'm like, at the time I was like, I'm trying to go back and play. And then I remember coach in Vegas, Gulletson, he flew me down. He's like, we're gonna get you in, we're gonna get you seeing the right person and blah blah blah. And it was like it just never made a difference. And after 2 years, it's like you haven't skated, you're nobody. And it's
Yeah.
really time to say
Well, every year there's more
over.
kids coming into pro and more college kids leaving college. And like, if you haven't
Yeah.
played, so you're saying after your first pro year, you get the knee injury after that and that summer, and then you tried to make a comeback for a year or two, and it just
two
didn't work.
years, yeah. But
Really?
but that first year of pro is interesting to talk about because that was the NHL lockout, and that was absolutely a kick in the balls to every kid coming out of college.
Everybody.
Because my third year was like Anaheim was like trying to let's go now, let's take you now, and I said no, we're just gonna wait. I want to finish school. I want to, I didn't want to leave on my team. And then the next year happens and it's a lockout and it's like, hey guys, I'm ready to go. And it's like, well, like they literally thought the NHL was folding. And that was that was it. So they signed the kids that were drafted, they signed, but any kind of free agent was like, no, it was not happening.
Yeah, no, I remember too, and I know exactly what you're talking about when you say like I didn't want to leave my team, and like the
Yeah,
Broncos were our team, and when NHL teams were sniffing around, it's like, well, I my like your mind's made up. Like I'm here for 4 years, and I'm with
I
these guys for 4
100%.
years. Yeah, I was
I'm
the same.
committed. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And I mean, to go back and change it, I don't know.
Like, what does it do, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we're just enjoying the ride, right?
Yeah.
Like it's interesting. Like for me, when I talk around in my shed and the people I end up having back on, it seems like a lot of them are all from smaller towns. And they're not the city boys that switched minor hockey teams every year, and the parents got different addresses so they could play for this team or that team.
Yeah.
They were all on teams. They were all guys that cared about their team. And then you get to pro, and it's just not like that. And sometimes this may sound strange, but sometimes the city boys strive in that world because it's always been about them. It's always been about the individual, and us country farm boys that just cared about our team and our teammates. We have a hard time adjusting to pro hockey.
It's true. It's a really good point, because it's also in the business world. It's like these people who are stepping on other people to get ahead.
They do get ahead
They do get
sometimes.
ahead.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there like, wow, what's the like I mean, okay, I guess I could do that, but I'm like, that's not
Yeah.
me. That's not how I want to be. And
Yes.
I could just start fires below me and just keep going for the goal, but
Yeah. Throw people
not
under the
me.
bus. Carry on.
But I hear you say is like you get into pro and it's like this really fascinating thing with a whole new group of people. Like I think college is unique because, and it's changed, which really is disheartening, but like it was a commitment. Like I'm going to be here for 4 years, sit on the bench or play on the ice. And people transferring was extremely rare. And it
Yes.
came at a cost of sitting out for a year, which I think now you can transfer at no cost.
Which is
But
crazy. Like
but it's going to create the problem.
it's
What
going to
we
be
just
just
talked,
like pro back, but it's going to be
yeah,
college.
junior, pro. It's like, wow, you're traded, you're moved. And it's like, I think that was so cool about going to school for 4 years was like, we are all Broncos. We were started Broncos, we're finished Broncos, the pride of the team, the school. It was just, yeah, man, you can't.
You're right. No, you're right. And oh gosh, you know what sucks is like when we had the players we had, like you look at our roster, man, like we had the players to do it. And I think for all of us looking back on it, we wish we would have done more there, right?
Yeah, we do. And I mean, yeah, I can't change anything, but it's like we were good. We were good. We were, I mean, what we recruited to Western Michigan for what Western Michigan was at the time was pretty fun. I think we always kind of lacked a goalie.
Um, right. But there's another thing to that side of the coin. Okay. And I'm not trying to be mean to anybody. I think the coaches at Western Michigan gave me every opportunity to be good. They gave the power play was just pass it to me and take clap bombs. They put me in every position to succeed. However, when I got to professional hockey, we weren't playing man-on-man defense. And I think sometimes the way a team can play defensive zone and their defensive structure can, in fact, improve the goalie save percentage.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Like that was a big thing when I got into coaching junior hockey was like, it's like you know, we're like, well, this is how we played. And then you get going and you're like, we're giving up 50 shots a game. And it's like,
My first practice in pro, my very first one, we did D zone coverage, and I thought it was man on man. And Andy Delmore was the D man up top, and he started skating all over the zone. And I followed him, and the coach blew the whistle down. He's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Is it not man on man here?" And I was done with Syracuse from the first day.
yeah. Well, the coaching, the systems, the Brooksy, like when I coached, he was a huge, mentor, huge help. Like I
Yeah,
remember
he's
calling
a
him,
shed guy. I had an episode with Brooksy.
Yeah,
We're still in contact now. It's great. It's great reconnecting with people in the shed because then we get to stay in contact and see how
yeah,
everybody's doing, right? And it's like
totally.
it only took 18 years to get her going.
Yeah. Well, and Brooksy's like he was such a huge asset for me because I just call him and be like, dude, I don't know what to do. Like we're losing, we're giving up 50 shots a game. We're like, I need help. Like I didn't have any coach mentorship. And you need that. Like
You
if you're
need
gonna
people
get
to
in a
talk
coach,
to.
it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, you gotta call the guy ahead of you and say, I don't know what to do here. And when Glenn Gulletson came and coached the Flames, he was my coach in Vegas, and I called him and I went down and sat in the Flames and I watched practice and he walked me through stuff. And it's like you have to want more in the mentorship part. But Brooksy is one of our coaches, and Kenner, he lives in Edmonton, so he does fishing trips with me, and that's
Well, tell him to get in the shed, that fat mess.
dude, he will.
We've already talked about it. He said he was coming, and then it's like I'll text him and I don't even get a response for like a month. He's just so busy, this big CEO guy, right?
Yeah, he's always like, hey man, let's get a fishing trip going. And then I hear nothing all summer. And then all of a sudden, hey, how about tomorrow? I'm like, oh dude, we're booked for the summer. Like that's just him. He's busy and such his life.
But those guys are beauties, and I know how hard they tried to help me become a player, and they cared, and they did everything they could to help me be better. Kenner and Brooksy, those guys are great.
Awesome. Yeah.
Did you ever play beer darts at Western Michigan?
No.
You don't know what it is, do you? It came after you left. It was the next year. So Mike Erickson became our captain, right?
Yeah.
Transferred from Minnesota. He brought with him to Western Michigan a game called beer darts. And I tell you, you fellas would have loved it. So you sit in a circle in the lawn, right? With beers in front of you. You can have one beer in front of you. That would be standard play. But you can put, say, up to 5-7 beers in a pyramid in front of you in your lawn chair on the grass, right? And you can't hit the person beside you's beer, but you can hit the next person. You get every other, and you sit in a circle, and you just have real darts. And wherever the dart punctures the beer, you have to shotgun it to that spot. Once there's 3 holes in your can, you got to finish it. If it's in the bottom inch of your beer, you got to finish it. And basically, the more beers you put in front of you, more darts will come your way. You only get to throw a dart if someone threw it at your can, right?
Yeah.
And you just keep going around until there's just a pile of empties in the middle of the circle.
But that sounds people get hurt doing this, or
yeah, there's a couple injuries. There's a couple intoxicated folks that played, and their dart throwing was not accurate.
Accurate to the can.
But I really wish I would have got to play that with you. And
that's well, do you remember the game?
We played a lot of beer pong, though. I remember that.
Beer pong, yeah, that was those gymnast girls got us hooked.
Mm-hmm.
They loved their beer pong. Coos played a game. It was like cricket. They always played it.
TP.
TP, yeah. What I'm trying to think of what that game was.
Oh, I know TP. But Coos won't come to the shed to discuss it. So, but yeah, TP was. I don't know. He's scared. Actually, saw him in the airport last year. He was on his way to Croatia. Yeah, he's still scared. I want to have him on. He even has a 2 L's and Hockey Tails hat.
Really?
Yeah. But TP was, you played with a cut off hockey stick, no blade, tennis ball. There's 2 bases, and it's like playing squeeze. You know what squeeze is, right?
Yeah.
But the 2 outfielders, it's 2-on-2. You throw the ball back and forth. And if you swing and miss and it bounces once and you catch it, you're out. But also if you hit it in the air, bounces once, you're out. And it's every time you switch bases with your teammate is a run. Play up to 15. It was a good workout for us. That was our training in the summer.
Yeah, I know. I remember playing, and I was like, for the life of me, I'm like, I can't remember the rules of that game.
I took that home to my hometown and played with my buddies. I really like it.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Beer darts, eh?
Beer darts too. Yeah, but you learn a lot from people, right? As you get through hockey and you meet different people, it teaches you a lot.
Schnarples was our big bus game.
I have Schnarples written down on the notes here. I have that written down of the things you miss about hockey, right? Is playing Schnarples. You don't realize how good you have it. You're on a bus with your best friends and you're all playing cards. When does that happen in the real world?
Never,
Ever,
never.
ever.
And it happened frequently in
Every
college.
weekend.
Yeah, right.
Unless we won a home game on a Saturday, and then it was let your hair down as far as it could go and go
Yeah.
run amok, fellas. Have
The
fun.
tap room.
Tap room. Tap room. That's also on the notes. What a spot, eh?
What a spot is. I haven't been back
I haven't been back either.
to Western since I left.
I went back the next year just to skate on the way to training camp, and then I turned around to Germany instead. But I haven't been back either. But the tap room turned into the Y bar. It wasn't the same, and they didn't treat the hockey players the same. It wasn't.
We
the
didn't
same
have
thing.
Chuck at the back door.
No, it was. Do you remember how much Jarby used to like the touch screen game there?
Oh, that guy. Rick, he loved his games. Like he'd sit up all night playing online poker. And remember when he won and he was like, guys, I won like $1,000 and we're gonna all go party after the year.
He did stay up like all night, right? In a $5
always.
tournament.
always sitting on the couch in the living room there. Just can't
My favorite Jarby memories would be going bowling with him. But
oh yeah.
good times, eh? Western Michigan, what a spot, eh?
What a great spot. How far you live from there?
5.5 hours, no, yeah, about that.
And you haven't been back.
I haven't been back for a while, and now that when I have been back, my kids are into a lot of stuff, right? There's a lot of things to do. I want to go back.
Yeah, I want to take the kids back. I had the golf tournament. I got invited, but that's just my fishing season, so I couldn't go ever at that time. But I'd love to take the kids now because they're starting to ask questions about it, and it'd be fun to just go there and show them like.
I want my kids to see the Lost and Lunatics, right? Like,
yeah,
you know, you said don't push them into hockey. Like, I don't push my son into hockey at all, but like he is as into it as a kid can get, and he also is pretty good. And I would like to see him watch the Broncos play. I'd like him to see the Lunatics, because I think it would be like that day I saw them play University of Michigan, and then it could give the kid the drive, the passion to try and go get that done, right?
They're chasing down.
Yeah, everybody needs dreams, and you got to be, got to go get
Yeah,
them.
no, I'd love to go there for a weekend and watch some hockey, and
yeah, it would be something to go back there, right? And like that's where Lisa and I met, right? Back in the Burnhams.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Apparently the team doesn't stay there anymore.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do they have to stay at the dorms for 2 years, or is
that ended like right after my class. That was like, yeah, they went to just 1 year right after us.
That was terrible.
I agree. Let's just move on. But back when we played college, there weren't phones around, right? Like there are now. Like,
well, there was just starting to get.
It was just, you could get like the Nokia phone, but you could also take a picture of someone and like it could show up on the little tiny screen.
Yeah.
But that was a lot of work to make that stuff happen, right?
Yeah, that was like texting wasn't even for me. I think texting was kind of happening like the next year after I left.
Wasn't a thing. I remember having a phone in my dorm room and people had to call our dorm room and like leave a message.
Yeah, I know. And you had to race back and check and see like, but what a world. Do you ever think back if we had, I just can't imagine if people could record stuff that took place.
I know. There's phones changed everything, right?
Yeah. And I think somewhat good for maybe an accountability. I think a lot of that stuff doesn't quite happen at that level because it's like hesitation of videos.
Right.
I don't think we were bad. I think it was just free. We just literally lived free.
You weren't worried about anything. You could just be yourself and carry on.
Yeah, and you weren't doing things to be recorded.
Right.
Very genuine.
And you weren't not doing things to be recorded.
Exactly.
You could just be free.
Yeah.
Yes. So anyways, you become a captain your second year at Western Michigan, eh? That's pretty wild.
Yeah,
We're
that was
jumping around here. My gosh.
it's all right. Nobody knows. Nobody knows your notes.
Nobody knows my plan, right? I
Yeah,
I can bounce around however I want, but
yeah, it's your
in
podcast.
in olds, okay, let's go back there because we never really went there for you as a player. You played there 4 years. 4 years of like kind of growing up in olds, right? And I can see how that would make you loyal to that town, that team. And then you come to Western, you have the same attitude. But your third year, okay, I don't know how old you are. You got 224 penalty minutes. And then the next year, you get 108 points and 64 goals. So did someone tell you like, hey, maybe like you should just focus on scoring more instead of beating people up, or how'd that
Well,
go?
I think it was nobody told me that. Nobody told me much. It was I can't say the coaching staff was strong. From what I remember, I think a lot of it was my third year. I was frustrated because the year before that I led our team in scoring the last 3 years, and I just wasn't getting any attention or
Right.
and I was like, okay, well, whatever. And our team was doing average. And then the third year was like, okay, well, I'm really gonna go all out this year. And I think a lot of frustration was there. And so I just started fighting and I fought. And then that became addicting. And it was like I just tried to fight every game, was like, I don't know, score 2 or 3 goals or whatever, and then find someone to fight. And then people wanted to fight you because you're fighting. And it was like, okay, well, and
Usually the
whatever.
goal scorers don't have to fight, right? But I
Well,
guess
they
you're big, so
yeah, they shouldn't. I guess in today's hockey they don't at all. But like back then it was like, okay, maybe I'm just trying to like prove myself. Like
but back then in hockey, if you could do both, Ben, you're a valuable asset.
yeah, you were. And I remember a couple times fighting and and a coach got mad at me. He's like, you're just trying to screw the team over by sitting in the box. And I'll never forget that. I fought this one guy. He's like toughest guy, most PIMs in the Western Hockey League. He got sent down to junior. And we fought and it didn't go well for him. Knocked out. He had like 72 stitches in his face. And it was like a moment where I was like,
Sorry, what? 72 stitches
oh,
in
it
his
was like the Joker. Like it was bad. Like his whole
from your fist?
yeah, like from here to here tore his whole lip apart. It was actually scary. Like
From a punch?
a few of them, yeah. But like seeing him like on the ice in a pool of blood and like completely knocked out, I was like, oh, I honestly think I just killed somebody. And it was like kind of this like, whew, like this is real. So, anyways, he was like this tough guy, like whatever, no, like blah blah blah. Come back, they play in olds like 2 months later, and he's got like his stitches all the way up, like you could see the
Oh,
scars. And I was like, okay, I gotta have to do this. We're gonna have to fight again because obviously,
he
you know,
wants to try
yeah.
again.
So he's poking at me all game, and then finally, like he wouldn't let me go. So I should have made him wait or whatever, but I didn't. We turned around, we fought, and he kind of just we just held, like I don't think anybody landed a punch, and then I get kicked out, and the coach comes to the dressing room. He's like, what the fuck are you doing? You're just trying to screw the team over. Your agenda matters more than the team's agenda. And this has never left me. And I was like, and I'm still baffled to this day. It's like,
That baffles me too, because you're being an honest hockey guy that you messed up a guy's face and he wants a piece. He wants retribution. He wants to try again.
yeah,
And
and you
that
got to
if
give
it
him a
and that
chance.
in hockey, that's how it works. If that guy wants to do it again, then that's part of it. Then okay, let's do it again. And
Yeah,
sorry
you
if
got
it
to answer
happens
the
again
bell.
to you, right?
Yeah, and it was like he just tore me apart, and I,
Then
I
that
was
guy
like,
doesn't get it.
no, but I mean, he's been coaching in this league for 20 some years since then. So I'm like, but I remember that moment, and I was like, that's not selfish. Like I'm leading the team in scoring, and I'm fighting all the time. So it's like you need to do something as a coach to take that guy off my back. Like if
Yeah, there has to be someone else step up and do it so then you can focus on scoring.
so, anyways, I think that year was big for like just like not backing down and just realizing that I was like, okay, I can play both games.
Yeah.
And then into the final year, I still think I had a lot of PIMs, not as many, but the idea was now I kind of earned some respect and I could,
I could just picture it. I could just picture you because I saw it at college level when everybody was jacked up. I could just picture you a junior standing in front of net around the power play and nobody
yeah,
coming near you.
there's, you still had the guys that were like, but like that was where I could actually say to people, like they would come and challenge, fighters on the teams. And I was like,
No.
I don't have to, right? Like where
Yeah,
I matured as a player, and it's like I don't have to, like,
yeah. And you were more established then.
yeah, right. And so
Yeah.
you grew as a player, maturity set in, and
Do you know there's another guy that came to the shed that was on your Olds team there for a bit? Brian Maloney.
oh yeah, Maloney. How do you know him?
I played against him. He was in Ravensburg.
Okay,
Yeah, and I had a few of them on from Ravensburg.
nice. Yeah, he
He
played our first year, and then
he's like a bit of an alpha male. He was on the ice,
yeah,
he was an alpha male over in Germany.
yeah, he played our first year, and then requested to be traded.
And
So
then left.
I think he got traded to Chilliwack. Yeah.
Okay.
I've
I think
seen him
that's
over
where
the years.
I think that's where he coaches now.
Yeah, he went out. He was here for a bit. Then he went out there to coach. I think he's still a coach. I haven't really checked in on it, but I know he was coaching there. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe he is now. But anywho, that was just random. So when you're doing that well, you're scoring 64 goals and you're like 220 pounds and you're still in junior. How many schools were kicking around? You're saying the Ivy League and Western? That's it?
Well, yeah, yeah, that was it, to be honest.
64 goals at 220. Okay.
Yeah, I know. So sometimes like not a lot of things make sense. And it doesn't have to, right? It's not it
Hockey players like when things make sense. I don't like when they don't make sense. That's all.
yeah. And as a player, I don't like that either. But what I had to realize that year was like, I those are you can't control that stuff. Like you can, I had a crazy SAT score, which is I had talked to a lot of Ivy schools. They really liked that part. I just couldn't afford the part they couldn't pay in scholarship.
What's it
stuff.
called? It's called they do it where it's like, yeah, it's all funded. There's no scholarships. It's like
Yeah, they
whatever.
can give you like academia money and stuff, but you can't get stuff for sports. And you're paying like 40 grand American a year to go to Princeton. And I mean, it'd be cool to
Say you went to
say
Princeton.
you went to Princeton, but it's, that debt would still be lingering.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, it was interesting. I remember we had the thing here called the Viking Cup, which is like a kind of a tier 2 world junior, takes place. I don't know if it's going on anymore, but it was. So they do a team Alberta, and I made the team that year, and I made it as like an extra, and I wasn't really in the lineup, and that kind of triggered things for me because I think I was doing well up until that point, and I remember coming back from that tournament, having either sat in the stands or been a fourth liner,
Yeah.
and I was like, you know what, this is fire in my belly. Is like, I thought I should have played more, and I probably should have, but I came out, and at the end of the year, it's like, hey, 64 goals, and you guys didn't play me at Christmas, like.
Yeah.
And then everybody's like, wow, we take, taking credit for you. Like so many coaches do that. It's like, oh, remember Viking Cup when we picked you on the team and that's how you got scholarships. It's like, no, I already committed to Western before the tournament. So like,
Sometimes the fire in the belly is a good thing. And sometimes when things don't make sense, it gives you more fire in your belly. Like my son's been through a few things where like, as a dad, you're like, well, this doesn't make sense at all. It doesn't make any sense. And then it happens and you have to try and explain it to a kid that just loves hockey. And then, you know what? It happened. And then a year later, everybody that makes decisions looks ridiculous.
and then it makes sense. And it's like,
and then you're like, well, how do you feel now about those decisions? You gave the kid the fire. So thank you.
yeah, right. And it's, it's super important that as athletes, we realize those fire triggers. And so it's like, okay, you fired me up. I'm not going to be bitter, and I'm not going to sit here and like
Sulk.
wallow in my shit. I'm going to be like, oh, okay, another
I'm gonna go
person doesn't
stick
believe.
it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
There's
know,
two
and you're,
ways to look at it, right? You can either make everybody look like idiots, or you could make their decision look like it makes sense.
yeah, you can make them right or you can make them wrong. And
Exactly.
it's really easy to make them right because you just have to quit. And that's what they're like. Yeah. But I love that stuff about sports with the kids where it's like, oh, why did this person make the team and I didn't? And it's like, well, my unbiased opinion is probably this, but uh be better. Don't suck. Like
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
your advice. Like,
But then that's when it makes sense, right? And then
yeah,
there's times when it doesn't make sense, and then you're like, oh, so they're them and they're them, and oh, okay.
yeah. But that's the good stuff to get them to it's like it doesn't make sense and it might not right now, but it can't change your course of action.
You
Or
got, if you're gonna go, you gotta go, right? Yeah.
yeah, because it, like playing pro and the challenges and the lies and the bullshit and the misfortune and the promises and the it's like you can't believe it. You just have to go play tonight.
You just go
Shift after
play, and you
shift. Yeah.
play the best you can every time you get out there, make the best play you can, right? And yeah, there's so much stuff that goes on in a hockey player's mind with all the other stuff, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, if you can just focus on playing good, you'll be fine.
Well, and that was a big thing with the junior kids when I was coaching was like, it's like you guys are so mentally weak. Like you're so like all this other stuff is just infecting you and you can't play hockey. And it was like really trying to teach them the psychological part of the game where it's like you need to be strong. Like fortitude is everything because at the next level, you'll think your coach is playing mind games and you'll question everything. And it's like, get out of your head. Like, and the kids that could, they moved on. And the kids that couldn't, great kids, great skill, weak mentally, and bye.
Yeah. Well, and there's some mental challenges when you get into hockey at high levels, man.
Huge, yeah.
Wild stuff. Yeah. And then it's the confidence thing, right? For me. So this is a story. Last weekend, I coached my first tournament or jamboree with my under 9 gals. And I haven't talked about it on here yet, but it was the most heart-filling weekend. Anywho, I'm not getting choked up. What a mess I am. God, I'm a loser. But like, there were girls that could hardly skate at the start of the season. And like, they all love hockey now. They love showing up at the rink. They were a team. We went out for chicken wings. It was their first tournament in their lives being on a team with a bunch of girls and seeing them come together. I just loved the shit. But then when you talk about mind games and confidence, like for my own daughter, she had never scored a goal in a real game. And she'd kind of go out there like, I'm not really into hockey. I'm not really that good. I'm just doing this. And I just kind of go out and she'd trip girls. She'd slide tackle. She wasn't just that into it. Sometimes she just, she said this the other day. She's like, well, sometimes I just skate around jumping over the lines. And I'm like, I'm watching it. I know, honey.
I see it.
But then she scored one goal. And it was a great goal. She got the puck right near the buzzer. And I said, shoot it. She scores. And to see the smile on her face. And then at the end of the game, the other team gave her the player of the game puck. And how happy she was, how confident she was. She couldn't wait to tell her brother, her mom, like everything about the day. And then the next day, she scored 4 fucking goals. And all of a sudden she was into it. She wasn't falling down anymore. She was going into the pile, pulling the puck out, skating away with it, going in and scoring goals. And I'm like, all you had to do was believe in yourself.
Yeah, so that could happen.
Yeah. And it was
sometimes you
crazy.
can't believe in yourself until you do it, right? Like
once you proved yourself you could do it, you're like, oh shit. Really?
But think about it. Like I remember on my recruiting trip watching Fair State, which they weren't great that year, but I was watching college hockey, and I remember saying to myself, holy shit, like I cannot play at this level. Like
If you don't believe it, you can't do it.
yeah. And I remember, and then as the season got going, freshman year, the next year, I was like, I'm actually really doing this, and
Yeah.
I don't suck. And
Mhm.
I'm actually really playing at this level. And that would build your confidence. But it's like so many people are like, just believe you can do it, and then you can do it. It's like, no, that doesn't
You have to actually
always,
go out there
yeah.
and show yourself you can do it.
But kudos to you, a mentor, a coach, a dad in her life, where it's like it wasn't about the scoring. It's like, when are you going to score? And I hear dads, moms, it's like, when are you going to score? When are you going to make your serves over the net? It's like, no, just I need you to play. Just
Just
play.
play.
Jump over the lines, play. That's cool. But then when it happens, it's like, oh, now hang on, because somebody believes in themselves.
And it's up to them. It's their journey, right?
100%.
You're just there helping it along.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, it was a weekend I'll never forget. And then there was another highlight of mine was the other Zoe on our team, who this is her first year of hockey. She's learned how to like spread it out in this 4-on-4, and she can be up by the other team's net a bit. So she gets the puck, she goes in, and she'd never scored before. She goes in on a breakaway and almost scores. Play's still live. Soon as it happened, skates straight over to the bench, looks at me and goes, "Coach, did I do good?"
Really?
And I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, yes, but keep playing.
Get the play still alive.
And then she scored the next day, folks, her first
Yeah.
ever goal. Way to go,
That's
Hearts.
awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
But it is cool watching these young girls like be on a team, right? They've never been on a team in their lives, I don't think. Like, where else would you get 15 girls in the locker room, right? Going out
Yeah.
there and working together.
Yeah, it's the magic. It's super cool.
Okay. Anywho, so then you do end up at Western Michigan. We talked about that. We had a hoot, right? Then you go pro, play 1 year. So what was it like living in Vegas as a first year pro?
Well, it was interesting the way you get there. Obviously the end of the season.
Actually, let's talk about that. So I'm with you at Western Michigan. I know. So the year before I get there, whatever, your last 3 years at Western Michigan, you have over 30 points a year as the captain of the team, a power forward, and like a net front guy, and that can also play. What were your pro options? Because I mean, there were some players at Western Michigan, and not all of us had like great pro options out of the deal.
Yeah, so while the junior year was Anaheim was like every probably to a fault, he was up there every week trying to get me to leave. And that like rattled me, because I was like, dude, you just got to stop coming, because I can't think like I gotta focus on our team here. Like, this
Was his name David McNabb?
Yeah.
He used to call me when I was in class too. I met him.
Yeah, he was violent, man. Like, not
I
violent.
remember the day I was sitting in a class at Western Michigan University, and with those new phones, it popped up and said, "The Mighty Ducks of Anaheim." I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But I remember that guy. He met me in a hotel room, and then that game at Ohio State that night, we lost 7-0, and I never heard from him again. That's my story.
So he came to watch Bieksa, who played at Bowling Green.
Yeah.
And I remember that was a good game against Bowling Green, and I think I had a few good body checks on Bieksa. And after the game, he come up and he goes, "I came to watch him, and then I saw you, and I'm like, we need you." And I was like, how's this happen so quick? And so it was just like that. It was just like constantly calling and packages in the mail of stuff. And I was like, dude, I just can't, like, and I was so paranoid that I was getting set up from NCAA about like, he would try to, come take me for dinner. I was like, I'll pay for my own dinner. I don't want, like, somebody's watching. And I remember I broke my wrist that year. My first game back is we went to Denver to play, and or Colorado College. I think it was Denver.
Colorado College where I went.
I
never played in Denver though.
Must have been Colorado College then. Because you would have been there. It was your freshman year. Anyways, I think we played the Pepsi Center because I remember playing at the big arena. And like,
Colorado College had a sweet barn, but it was a
did they?
huge rink. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that was it. And it was like the atmosphere, like the actual like altitude of being in Denver. And it was like, it's hard to play when you go there because we're at sea level. We go up 1,600 meters and it's a lot. And I didn't play great. And then he messaged me after and was like, let's take a break. And I was like, yeah, you gotta stop coming. Like, but he came back the fourth year and it was there. And then you have to figure out agent stuff. And it was like, oh, this is getting real and I don't know what to do. But then this like lockout was looming and it was like teams are getting weird and everybody's like, you're talking to a lot of teams and it's like, hey, where am I going to go? And then it was so much focus on that as I couldn't focus on school and I couldn't focus on staying at Western. And season ends and it's like, people are trying to get you to go leave and play in the American League. And I was just like, I don't want to do that. I want to finish school. I want to like my buddies and like so many decisions. And then Calgary, that's the year they went on their Stanley Cup run. They called and said that they're having it's like the first time they had like, now all the NHL
Development
teams
camps or
have their
whatever.
development camps. It was the first ever development camp and it was in the spring. So they invited me to that. And then it was like, all things were good. And Daryl Sutter was there and he's just like, love your game. And we don't know what the lockout's doing. And so we can't do anything. And so Glenn Gulletson was there and he coached Vegas and that was their farm team in the coast. He comes up and he says, I know you're going to go somewhere else, but if you have to end up in the East Coast, I would love to have a chance at you playing with us. So I remember going through that summer. It was hell because my agent would call and be like, well, yeah, I talked to Edmonton. They're very interested, but the lockout's looming and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, God, I'm really close to a deal with Colorado, except the lockout's looming and they don't know what they can do. And it was just like, and I'm like, where am I going next year?
Yeah,
And so
that's all you want to know. Yeah.
yeah, so I could prepare. So I remember finally it was like August. He called me end of August. He goes, well, kid, I've tried everything. So you're best just to call around and find yourself a spot in the East Coast. And I was like, and it was like everything came crashing down. I was like, oh, wow, this is super depressing because
Yeah.
we all talked NHL for all this time. And I
Yeah.
feel like I could play at that level or at least start out there and try. And it's like, nope. Like, so I got to call around. He's like, yeah, you got to call around and find yourself. So I
This
called.
is your agents at that?
Yeah. Well, because they don't make money off the coast. So they just,
Right. No, I know. And I realized that. So I had one of those big time agents. He flew in, he wanted me my junior year when I was like doing
yeah.
really good. And then after that first year of pro, and after like the start in Syracuse, and I end up in the coast for most of that year, I could just tell he was checked out with me. Like
Yeah.
he had Martin St. Louis, he had all these NHL guys, and it's like, why am I going to waste time with you? Like you played in for the Daytona Beach Bombers last year.
Yeah. They're just, who was it?
Why he was a good dude. Yeah. So Lewis Gross, he was a good dude, and he was an agent I wish I would have been with. But like, I guess I just didn't fulfill. Like he was one of the bigger ones, right? And he wanted me until I decided to go to Germany.
Yeah. Like I chose the bigger agent group and I was like, oh, this is great. They have people connections, Steve Eiserman, blah, 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 blah. It's like, yeah, but you're nobody. So
And
anyways,
I liked mine though. I did like mine, and it wasn't his fault. It's on me that I wasn't good enough when I got to Syracuse. I didn't believe in myself enough. I didn't have the mental game. I wasn't mentally strong enough when I started pro. I was too big of a little bitch, It wasn't
yeah.
his fault. He tried for me.
Yeah. So I go to Vegas. I loved it there. Like Gully was the best coach I ever had. Like that, I don't think anybody believed in me more than he did. And I remember when I get there and he said
That can really help a guy, can it?
huge because Vegas was awesome. Playing in Vegas was awesome. The weather was awesome. It wasn't humid because a lot of like the hotter teams are in like humid areas and that's horrible. Vegas was like a dream place to play. loved the teammates there. I was in a perfect place. And Golly said to me, he's like, you're not going to be here all year. And I was like, why not? He's like, because I'm not going to let that happen. He's like, you have way too much hockey player in you to play here.
I
And I was
agree.
okay.
I
What
couldn't
do
believe it the next year when you left. Cause like when you play with a guy and like you hockey players want things to make sense. And it's like,
yeah,
this
right.
guy's been the captain of our team. He's one of the top scorers on our team. He's the leader of our team. He's built like a football player. He can muck it up with anybody. And it's like, well, he's in the coast. So it's like, how am I supposed to believe in myself as a 5'8" fat guy?
Yeah, but it's true because it's like but that's the things that don't make sense. And so all Golly did was he was, faxes were a thing back then, but he was faxing like every American League team. And I came in and was leading our team and scoring and everything. And it was fun. And it was like all of a sudden he's like, "Okay, I got you a call up to Utah, like Phoenix's farm team." I was like, "Oh, okay. Oh man, I'm so nervous." And I remember like going to the airport as the first call up, and I was like, "Gotta make this the best." And like I like my game day routine, and I'm like flying up there on the day of the game, and I end up getting to the rink, and I walk in, and everybody's half dressed for warm up, and I got like cotton mouth, and I'm like, "Oh," like, and I don't remember the game. I just was like shaking the whole time. I got an assist, and then they wanted me to stay up there, and it was Christmas break. I was like, "So what do I do? Just sit in the hotel over Christmas?" They're like, "Yeah." And I didn't have any money. You're getting whatever. I was $200 a week in the East Coast. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, "What do I do?" And he's like, "Well, just sit in the hotel." I'm like, "I'm not going to sit in the hotel by myself for 5 days over Christmas break because I didn't have enough to get myself a flight home. I already had a flight from Vegas home. And so I'm like, I can't afford another $500 right now. So I said, let me just go back to Vegas. I'll come back after Christmas. I'll come back. I want to go home. Like I needed to go home.
Yeah.
So I come back, anyways, let's come back after Christmas.
And you stay on the coast.
No, then all of a sudden Providence calls me up because
Oh, you're just on an East Coast deal, so you can go anywhere.
yeah, you can go anywhere. So Providence calls me up. So I fly across the country at midnight till 6 a.m. And same thing, get there, long bus ride, first game. The pants they have for me are like 10 sizes too big. That like it's horrible. It's all how am I supposed to compete? And you talk about that mental resiliency. It's like it doesn't happen in perfection. In a perfect world, it's like I practice for a week, I get used to the guys, my blah blah blah. It's like
That is how hockey guys are though. Like you do want everything to be normal and the way it always is, and you want to be in your routine, you want to be in your flow, and that is when you play your best hockey.
it
It's
is, but
it's when you
they
get
don't you don't
set,
get to do that.
but you don't get to do that. And I'm telling you, the city fellas, the city boys that have switched teams their whole lives and don't really feel that associated with one team or the next. They're just a hockey player. They're not really, those
Yeah.
guys just show up and play their game and then they leave, you know?
Yeah, and it doesn't, it's like who are these guys? I want to fit in the team, like all these things that we care about. You don't get the chance to because it's like fly all night on a red eye,
And
jump
you're
in.
just the new guy that walks in the room with his hockey bag to play a game. Like,
Yeah,
dude,
you're just a meat filling a spot.
that's
I don't
what
really
you
care.
are.
So I stayed there for a month. I really liked the guys. Dave Gove, who was my former captain at Western, he was there. Patrice Bergeron, bunch of other guys that were all NHL. But the American League that year was the NHL because everybody got pushed down, and that league was really, really good.
Yeah.
It's still really good, but it was really, really good that year. And I was there for a month. I was staying in what I called the janitor's closet at the hotel. Was like there was a single bed and then like and so the whole time I'm like, hey guys, when do I get upgraded to a normal room? Like this is where I'm living. And it was all bad, but it just like, what do you want to be here? I'm like, yeah, I want to be here. I want the opportunity. So after a month, I was like, I went into the coaches and I said, here's the thing. I was playing on a line with Colton Orr and he'd go out and fight and we'd come back and sit down. And then I'd go out and fight and the coach would yell at me. He's like, you're not here to fight. I'm like, I'm just trying to get some
I'm
ice
just on the
time.
fourth line.
I'm just trying to figure out something. So I remember going to talk to him and I said, here's the thing. I'm here for the team and I'm here to play a role, but I need the same commitment from you guys because this is like sitting for a month isn't really helping me at where I am in my journey. And
Yeah.
he's like, so what are you asking? And I said, well, if you don't have space for me, send me back to Vegas because at least I get to play there. And he's like, are you sending yourself back to the East Coast? And I said, no, I'm asking a real question. Like, if Boston wants to sign me, you could sign me for 2 years for entry level and tell me to sit on the fourth line. And I know that you've committed to me. And so I'll commit to the team. But this like PTO that I'm working off of and this, like, you're just using me, right?
You're just filling a spot for
Yeah.
them.
And
You're
he was so shocked. He's like, nobody has ever set themselves down. I said, well, whatever. So I got asked to be sent down, I guess is what I, and then he went in the room and just trashed me to all the guys because they all told me after and went back to Vegas. And I was like, oh, this is home. Like, these are my team. These are my buddies. These are like,
it's the same thing when I was at Dayton, man. I'd go up to Syracuse and I'd see the way the culture was and the way it was. And I wasn't on that team. I was on Dayton. That was
yeah,
my
I
team.
know.
Those are my
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah. And that's probably a weakness we have where we care too much about our team and we're not interchangeable. But when we get into the team, it's like, watch out. That's a valuable asset.
Yes, absolutely.
So I played like 2 games in Vegas and it was, I mean, you play from American to East Coast. It was like, it was easy. And I was like, oh, I gotta like, and goalie's like, you can't stay here. Like, and so I got called back up to Utah and I stayed there the rest of the year. And that was a really tough decision because I was like, Daryl Sutter called me and he's like, oh, I don't think you should go. And I said, well, I need opportunity and this is opportunity. He goes, yeah, but look at their roster. They have like 60 people on their roster, meaning they're pulling up anybody because they have so many injuries. And I mean, I probably should have taken his advice because that's exactly what they did do. But I got there and I got on first line and I was playing power play and I actually got to play and I was doing well. Our team was, I think we had 72 losses that year. It was atrocious. But the guys were awesome. I love the guys on that team. That was a really fun team to be a part of. Yeah, and then it's kind of the end of it.
No, and that's you work your way up over a lockout to like playing first line, and you would have. I seen you play, and just very interesting because I wasn't totally sure what all happened. I didn't know if it was the medical school. I didn't know what exactly had happened that like stopped you from playing. Because when you play with a guy and you see you in practice, you see in the weight room, you see you be you, and you think, well, that guy's gonna make it, and then you see other guys make it from other, like I remember we always talked about when your class became seniors, that's when we're going to be so good. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
you guys were there for 4 years. You played hockey for 4 years at Western Michigan. We should have been good every year, right? Because you guys were on the team for 4 years. It's not about being seniors. That's just your fourth year on the team, the junior year, the senior year. But then when we lost to Notre Dame, I think it was.
Oh, that was heartbreaking. Yeah.
It was heartbreaking. And it was an overtime of game 3 of a best of 3. But like, then I remember that after that season ended, they had like 4 or 5 guys go straight to the AHL or the NHL.
NHL, yeah.
And we had guys go nowhere. We had Jeff Campbell have to show himself in the East Coast to become the league MVP. We had to have you go in a development camp to prove yourself. And it's like, we were just as good as them. We could have won that game and we could have scored that overtime goal. And then we're in Joe Louis. And then maybe you guys are signing the AHL and NHL deals, right?
Yeah.
It's such a thin line, man. It's crazy.
It's like, who was the coach for Notre Dame? He used to play for Philadelphia.
That Poulin guy that was on Sportsnet or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So he came up to me after that game and he said, he goes, you taking care of next year? And I was like, yeah, like my agent's got, we got NHL teams and whatever. And he's like, hey, and I don't know this guy at all. And it was a cool moment. And I learned as a coach later on, it's like, we're also cheerleaders for all the other kids on other teams where it's like,
Why wouldn't you be? If they got it, they got it, right?
yeah. And so he goes, you need anything, you call me. He's like, you gotta play, like you have to play next year. So like,
Yeah.
whether there's an NHL or whatever, but he's like, I will vouch for you all day long. And I was like, wow, that's really cool that a coach of the opposing team come up to me and
Said that.
offered that advice. And so as I coached, I was like calling schools for kids on other teams because I'm like, this kid can play. Somebody's like, you gotta go watch this kid.
And
And
that's
I
the way
realized,
hockey should work.
yeah, but it doesn't. Other
No.
coaches are, well, they want to put down that player because they want their player. And it's like,
But then sometimes they want to put down their own players. And that's why when you brought up Glenn Gulletson, I was like, well, that's a good dude. That how much he believed in you or not, he didn't know you from anybody else or whatever, but like he believed in you and he was going to go out of his way to make sure you got out of the East Coast. And that's the way hockey should be. You shouldn't. It's like when people thought I might have been ready, and then other people are telling me you're not ready. You got to stay here. You got to stay here because we need you,
Yeah, but to think about, I was the top scorer on that team, and he was like, got like, I'm like, why you want me to leave? Like, we have a good team and we could probably go far. And he's like,
for
because
you.
this isn't the place to stay forever. And he goes, I want to move on. You need to move on. He goes, we're about getting people on, whether we don't win. And I was like, you're really just, you're promoting me to lose your best player. And he's
Right.
like, it's not about us, man. It's about moving you on. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool.
It is. It's a different thing, right? And not everybody in the North American game or anywhere in hockey are like that. Most people are in it for themselves.
It's a fact.
Most.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I couldn't wait to have you on. I couldn't wait to have you in my shed because your whole class got that. You guys were the core of our team. Everybody else was, we were there helping out, but your class was the core of the team. You guys were all awesome. Draker, that guy could be a third liner any league, anywhere. I don't care what you say.
Yeah.
Paul Davies, the same thing, man. That guy gave her. He worked harder than anybody. Smart dude. Love to have those guys in my shed someday if they'd love to, if they want to. But like, and then you had Jarmy, who's just the coolest dude ever, right? It's like,
yeah.
And then you got Soupy, and you look at what he's doing, and now he's coaching in Switzerland, and it's like, man, I don't know, wild times. It was fun times though, and then look, you guys you helped me become me, and you guys made me love Western Michigan as much as I did.
Well, that's awesome, man. That means a lot hearing that 18 years later, because sometimes, and we never know. Sometimes there's like the difference of doing like the right thing and the right thing. And it's like, you try to do the right thing to, giving to the team, staying with the team. And you'll wonder, like, did it matter? And then to sit here and have a conversation 18 years later and realize that it had an impact on somebody, how we lived, how we carried ourselves, what we did for the program. And that's huge. I can't thank you enough for telling me that.
Well, no, it was your whole class. It was you as a leader. Like you guys were the class through our time, and then to see where it is nowadays, it's just awesome to see the Broncos doing well. And yeah. But I don't have much else other than I got to go back to the real world and stuff.
Are you dancing in the concert or?
No, I'm just watching. Yeah. But like it's been 18 years. It's been way too long. And like, the thing is like people thought I might run out of people. And it's like, I'm almost at 250 episodes. It took me this long to get you into my shed. And it's like, well, why can't we get your whole class together and have like a reunion in the shed? And it would be so much fun to see everybody, right?
Totally, man. I think truth be told, and I don't know if this is maybe other people hear this and understand, but like for me, like when I left and hockey ended abruptly, it's like you dilute your hockey friends, and it's like I don't want to. It hurts to talk to see those guys, and it's just like I don't want to have anything to do with them because I can't bring that up, and I just want to like like all
You
my
just
friends
loved it so
nowadays.
much and you're so passionate about it. And yeah, I know.
Yeah, and your buddies, and you just like you like the time together at school and like the bonds that were formed, and then it's like over, but it's all over, and you're like, I just can't. It hurts. Like it hurts too much to talk, to see the people, to like to connect. And I know that a lot of my friends, almost all of them now, they have no clue about me as a hockey player. And it's very interesting how that was like my life. And it's like, I played hockey. They're like, you played hockey, and it's so I've done a good job at removing everybody that brings the pain of the game back.
And to think of it, like, I remember, like you say, it was a wakeboarding incident, like it came to an end with. It's like, I remember when I was a pro hockey player and I'd have a deal signed, and like my parents are getting a boat out. I'm like, I want to try it one more time. I want to see if I can still do it. And they're like, you realize, and I'm like, but like, don't we have to live too? Right?
Yeah,
Like,
it's truth. You can't look back and say I shouldn't have done that. It's like if you're gonna just play hockey or sport or whatever and not live, I mean, then you're just paying for the paycheck, because really it's like you're go get a 9 to 5 at Walmart and greet people, because it's as fulfilling as that.
you're either all into something or you're not, but it's like you also like living is living. You got to enjoy life all the time. And like, I don't know, the whole deal of this shed, I now like interview dudes I've never met, and I talk to them about their career and I get to know them, and it makes me new friends in the hockey world. But when you really think about it, my Western Michigan buddies, you don't get that shit back. I mean, Western Michigan, I think, is a special school. I think the relationships we have with each other, whether we talk or not, is different than a bunch of other schools, say those bigger schools where they're all NHL highly touted
Yeah.
guys. We go there and we were Broncos. We were Broncos through and through, and we would do anything for each other. And whether you've talked to the guys, whether I've talked to the guys, I know if I ever needed anything, Broncos would be there.
Yeah. Because it brought a different breed of people that are like us, like-minded, like the guys that bled for the team, and it was like not the guys that were just trying to get out of there to go make a name. There was a couple of those guys there, but that was so rare. And just
Yeah.
the group of like it. I remember sitting in a apartment in Vegas right when I got to Vegas. The next year, I was like, I'm playing pro. This was the dream. I wanted to play pro, right? So here we are. I'm in Vegas. The lights, the war, like this is so freaking cool. And I went in my room, and I remember I called Davies, and I was just like, I was like bawling, and I'm like, I miss you guys so much. Like I can't function. Like I wasn't homesick for home. I was home. I wanted to come back. I wanted to go run the stupid 30-30-30s. I wanted to go see Vez in the gym. And I was like, oh, I can't function. Like I can't. And I probably spent 2-3 weeks in this, like,
Funk.
yeah, the missing the group, the school, the Western, like the whole package was like,
Right. You're right, though. It's the same as when I go to the AHL or wherever, and then you show up and it's like nobody cares about each other like we
oh,
did. Nobody cares. We just go out and play the game, and then it's over. And then whatever.
yeah,
It like we all cared so much. And if we won a game at home on a Saturday, look out.
yeah. Or one day a week to go and just
We'd put in some hours to earn
$100.
that night, right?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did.
But seriously, thank you so much for coming to the shed. I know it's a long time coming, but I've wanted you in here for so long, and I'm sure everybody that's listened to this knows exactly why.
Well, I appreciate it, buddy. And I know it took a while for me to get time, but everything happens when it's supposed to.
Absolutely. And I'm honestly, it took me a long time getting out of the game to figure out how to be involved in it. Where my passion was, I found it. I'm happy you're doing what you love. I hope you find your way back into the game again, because it sounds like you coach for the right reasons. You're the right mentor, you're the right leader. I know that. And I think if you do want to get back into the game, everybody should be wanting you, but you know,
Well, I appreciate it.
I also think you should fly fish if that's what you want to do. So just do whatever you want to do. You're going to be good at whatever you do. I know that.
I appreciate it, buddy.
And this has been another episode of Zero Ales and Hockey Tales with Lats and Wally.